Welcome back to another episode of Harmonious at Lunch, the show that fuels your business success. I'm Brandon Gano, your host and guide through the world of harmonious business growth. Today, we're unlocking powerful strategies with industry experts to help your business thrive. If you're a business owner, entrepreneur, or executive, you are in the right place. Join me and our incredible guests today on the journey to clarity, growth, and success. It is time to revolutionize your approach to business. Let's dive in with another episode of Harmonious at Lunch. Welcome back into some more bite-sized business advice. In today's episode, we have the story of an entrepreneur that I think, just from the quick high-level overview, sounds fascinating. I can't wait to dive in more. A unique story about leaving a corporate job, making a ton of money to start his own business. And we're also going to talk about his model, the capacity model, and more about what that is and how you could probably leverage it to grow your business. So Stephen Perry, enough about that. Welcome to the show, and thank you for being here.
Hey, thanks, Brandon. And thank you for, all the work that you do putting into this podcast to serve your entrepreneur community. I know it's a ton of work. And so thank you for providing this platform.
I appreciate that. Honestly, I love it. I love talking to people like you, meeting cool entrepreneurs, doing amazing things in the world, and just sharing those stories. I always find it interesting that somebody could be a fly on the wall. Like, we don't even know who we're talking to right now, but we could help somebody grow their business or get out of a hole or a rut in their life. And that to me is what keeps me moving forward. It sounds like a very similar idea for you as well. So
100%.
Thank you for being here. Seriously.
Yeah.
But I want to dive in because I mentioned this and you mentioned it to me before we started recording. You left a corporate job making a boatload of money. My words, not yours, but in a lot of people's context, you're making a ton of money and you left to start your own thing. So tell me about that story and how you got to here right now.
Yeah. So I've always been an entrepreneur. Like, I started my first company, I was 15. I got into the financial services industry at 20 as an advisor, very entrepreneurial, and migrated into more of an executive leadership capacity, culminating as being a managing partner, running a firm of 120 different people. And one day I looked up and I'm like, man, I am not an entrepreneur anymore. Like, I'm running somebody else's business and very highly compensated. I had made almost $5 million over the previous 5 years before leaving. If I just stayed, it was 30, 40 million over the next 20 years. And everybody was like, dude, just like, that's a very comfortable way to live out the rest of your career. Like, you've made it, you've done all the hard work. But, when I laid my head down at night, when I spent time reading God's word and talking to other inspiring people and just hearing what they were doing, I'm like, I know God's gifted me to do more than that. And 60-year-old Steve Perry would be pretty disappointed if I did not take the chance to live to my full potential. And that can't be under someone else's logo. It's got to be under my own logo. And so that was ultimately what the calling was and why I stepped out. And, my wife obviously very aligned with that as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the first and foremost. The people around you are usually the ones who are going to either empower you to do that or give you the most grief and pushback for doing something like that. So it's great that you were both on the same page. I am curious, though. I want to hear about your capacity model, but how did you discern God's voice in that? Because, I mean, you said it, like, if you just did this until you were 60, you could contribute whatever percentage you want, probably way more than 10%. Let's just say you tithe 10%, you can contribute to God's kingdom. You could do amazing things. Mm-hmm. And nobody on the planet would probably blame you for the life you lived. And they would say, you did it right. How did you hear that and say, no, I'm being called to move somewhere else and completely shake things up?
Yeah. Great question. So you kind of led a little bit into that without even knowing it. So it's a series of conversations and words that I'd either had spoken over me or in prayer time. One of them was, a word that said, like, I was going to have the privilege of giving $100 million to grow God's kingdom over my lifetime and lead others to give billions. And I knew that was not going to happen under that structure. And so, in the pursuit of that, under the promise of that, I'm one of the things I talk about in the book is the balance between a heavenly net worth and an earthly net worth, right? The Bible talks about laying up for yourselves treasures in heaven. That sounds like heavenly net worth to me. So I mean, 35% a year is what we gave, because I wanted to make sure that I didn't have more treasures on earth. My earthly balance sheet did not look like what I had, been rich towards God, like the Bible talks about. The hidden blessing in that, though, Brandon, was that that created capacity to leave, because all of a sudden we're not living and we're not consuming that portion, the generous portion of our life. We're not, like, when we leave, and if we're not making that anymore, we don't require that to live our lifestyle. And so that was just a hidden blessing of save, invest, give, right? And so you're living on significantly less than what you earn, which allows you to be obedient, to hear God's voice, and take what others might perceive as an incredibly drastic step, and just take that step in obedience.
Yeah, I mean, even that one principle alone of living on way less than you make, I would assume you didn't start your career making that much money.
No.
How did you keep that in check as you grew? As your salary grew, your checks got bigger, your lifestyle, whether it stayed the same or increased, you continued to live off way less than what you could have. How did you keep that from a mental state in check?
Yeah. So this wasn't an actual concept, and I don't know that I can claim authorship for it. I heard different bits and pieces. And so something that I created is called a contentment circle. Mm-hmm. And the earlier you could do this, the better. But basically create your dream life. Like, what are all of the things someday you hope to have and experience and do? Like the house, the cars, the vacations, what you do with your kids, and all these different things. And write all of them down. The biggest you can possibly dream today. And then draw a circle around it. You can't expand the circle. Like, as your lifestyle increases, as you're exposed to cooler and newer things that you're like tempted to put in that circle, don't grow the circle, because at some point in your life, that is the happiest materialistically that you could have ever imagined being. And I can tell you, when we went from the $600,000, 3,000 square foot house to the 5,500 square foot lakefront $2 million house, we were not 4 times happier. And when we sold that and moved into the rental that we now live in, that is a quarter of the cost, we're probably happier now because of the simplicity, the ease, the time it allows us to grow a business and spend time with our family and our friends and travel and like turn the light off and on and leave and skip town for 2 weeks and not have lawn keepers and housekeepers and all this crap. So that contentment circle was really the key. And then living it out, practically going up and going down. I can attest that it's an amazing practice to live in.
I love that. I've never heard it before, so I am attributing authorship to you. It's official. Congratulations. But you do have a model that is yours, and I am curious to hear about that. You've called it the capacity model. So you said that you actually you developed it before you left that corporate job, and that's kind of where the book came from. So talk to me about what that is.
Yeah. So the capacity model, the subtitle of the book is How to Build Your Best Life. And really the premise of the book, Brandon, is that we all experience stress in life. And the way I introduce it in the book is that actually stress is a gift. Stress is a gift from God telling us that it's time to grow. And so the reason that we all experience stress is we all have a certain level of capacity, meaning that we can handle a certain amount of life and crap and things thrown at us up until the point that we would raise our hand and say, I'm stressed out. And so that capacity level is built on three different pillars, right? So if you think of these 3 pillars holding up a roof, right? The more time you've developed in building these pillars, the higher your capacity is. And so the capacity pillars are your education, your habits, and your relationships. And so as you're cruising along through life, right, you naturally hit your head on that ceiling and you feel stressed out and you're like, okay, I need to grow my capacity. You really have 2 choices. You can either go through the cycle of breakdown, which is disappointment, like, gosh, this sucks. I can't believe I'm going through this right now, to disillusionment, step 2, which is like, man, this is never going to get better. It's always going to be bad like this. To step 3, which is greener pastures, meaning that you just quit and give it up and move on to something else. Or you can, and then the downside of that is, you never grew your capacity. So when you encounter that same situation again, it's still going to cause you stress. So instead of having a breakdown, you've got to have a breakthrough. And the breakthrough is is obtained by figuring out, do I need to grow my education? Do I need to develop bigger and better relationships? Or do I need to input some new habits in place that will in turn grow my pillars and raise my capacity ceiling to be able to handle everything life's thrown at me?
I'm curious. The first thing that logically comes in my head is if you focus on any one of those pillars exclusively, you're going to have a roof that's a little crooked and it's going to fall off the house, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how does this look in practice, whether it's from an individual or from a business perspective? Is it like putting a little bit of our resources in each one so they're equal? Are there seasons to focus on different pillars? How does that work?
Yeah, so great point in that. And so what a couple things will happen. Like number one, you'll find that you're hitting your head on the corner of this ceiling because your education pillar is too low and the other ones are high. And so you'll think, man, I need to learn a little bit more about, AI is a great one right here. Like what is it? Like, is AI going to replace my job? I'm stressed out. They're going to replace me. Like what is all this? So I need to learn a little bit about it. And all of a sudden I realize, oh, well, not only is it not going to replace me, but I can actually use it to get better. And here's how the tool uses it. So that raises your education pillar a little bit. Or if you're saying like it's tilted because one of them's super high, they all work interconnectedly. So you might develop, you're like, I don't have very good relationships. I'm going to go find a mentor and start working with that mentor. And that mentor is going to encourage you to build more relationships. They're going to encourage you to increase or improve your habits. And they're going to say, you need to start reading books too. So you got more education. So they'll all work interdependently of each other.
That makes sense. So you, like I said before, you developed this model, you realized the model in your corporate career, and you jumped ship, so to speak, to build a new business, to be an entrepreneur again. And from what you told me before we started growing, or before we started recording, you are growing very rapidly. So how have you seen this model play out, and how do you actually use it to grow your business so fast?
Yeah. So fortunately and unfortunately, leaving a position that, I was blessed to have a good income from, I knew there was nothing that I could do as a solopreneur that would drive enough value and revenue that I would ever get anywhere near close to replacing, let alone making it worth leaving to start something from scratch. And so immediately my recognition was, and I had the education to know that anytime I see myself doing a job, I need to immediately find a who to start doing that and continually replace myself and replace myself and replace myself and replace myself. And that mentality, plus paired up with the fact that, we're a startup, I bootstrapped the whole thing. There's no outside investors. So it's my wallet that's paying for all of these replacements, right? I have to figure out, like, does this need to be a full-time employee in America that requires salary and benefits? Can it be a virtual assistant? Can it be a hybrid? Like, how can I afford to bring these people on? Where's the revenue coming from to replacing that? All right, I got to go sell that job to be able to afford to hire that. And so, but it was really a twofold, right? Replace myself as often as I can. And the other philosophy that I had is that we spend too much time doing things because we have to, not because we want to. Most people that work in other people's companies, like they were hired to do something specific that they were gifted in, and then all of a sudden their job description went like this, and now they're only spending a small amount of their time doing something that they really enjoy. So what I wanted to do as much as we could in the company is have these narrow tranches of responsibilities and then hire people to place them in their natural giftings so they could spend the majority of their time doing that. So we're going to get an outsized performance from them because they love what they're doing. Frankly, we don't have to pay them quite as much because they just love what they're doing all the time. And we're clear about that up front. And then as the company grows, then we're able to reward them financially for what they helped us all achieve together. And so that narrow tranche, placing people in their giftings was another one of the things that we did early on to help us grow so quickly.
I have to echo that. That's what we at Human Op help people do from a scientific perspective. It is a total game changer when you have people who are not in natural dissonance, but because of the tasks they're doing in their job. I mean, they move so much faster and further, and they're willing to support the company, like you said, most times for less money, which is not the goal, but it's just the honest reality of where we are. When you can provide a place where someone wants to work and be involved,
Yep.
the salary is almost irrelevant if it's within a reasonable range. So I love that you got there too. I am curious about what you said about replacing yourself, because in theory, that's very easy to do. In theory, I'm not saying it's easy to do, but what's harder is finding the right things to do in the first place. Entrepreneurs, especially, we're squirrels in most cases, and we get distracted and we want to just build our logo, like design our logo for 4 weeks. I mean, that's not revenue generating activity by any stretch of the imagination. So how did you, over the past 14 months, continue to find the next right thing to do that you could then replace?
Yeah. So great question. And I will talk about capacity, right? One of the pillars is relationships. And so a guy that I've worked with for many, many years as my executive coach, I kept him on and said, hey, I need you to help me build this thing out as a coach, right? Because he's working with 15 to 20 other entrepreneurs running large organizations. He gets to hear and see all of the mistakes and all the victories that they have. And then I have to agree to be totally accountable to, what we decide and what he advises. And so a lot of that up front was helping remind me to keep the main thing. And so I find I gravitated to doing the second most important thing. And for most of the time, the two most important things are recruiting the right talent for my team and selling. And at any given time, I'd want to do the other one. But I had him in relationship, which again helped me avoid a lot of stress by making sure that I always had my eye on having the right people that were adding to our firm and keeping the revenue coming in. And that would be the number one thing I would say for new entrepreneurs, is a lot of them get into the business because they have a good idea and they want to be creative. But unless they're bringing someone, a partner, an equity partner, day one in, that sole responsibility is selling. It's their job. They have to be marketing and selling the company and what they do. We made a goal that I am still actively daily in the selling until we get 200,000 in monthly recurring revenue. And until that point comes, I can hire salespeople, but I'm still doing it myself now. And that was cool for me too, because it gave me a goal and a deadline to get to. If you want to stop doing this, and you got to get it there and get the team there.
Yeah, I like that. It's it's a powerful way to grow too, because it makes sense, but it also drives you. And those two things are important. So this has been an awesome conversation. I love everything you're doing, your path. To hear your journey is really cool, and to just hear the boldness that you had to step out and trust and have that faith to say, this isn't my thing, but I know I'm called to something way bigger, and watch you chase it is amazing, Steve. So thank you for being here, sharing your story. You mentioned a book. I know you have a couple other things for the audience. So if the listener wants to hear more about you, grab a copy of the book. Where should they go?
Yeah, Capacity Model. It's on Amazon. It's on Audible. All the easy things. And then, our company that we started is the Well Recruiting Solutions. And so we're a direct hire permanent placement company. So if you're looking for talent for your team, we've got some expertise, a lot of expertise in the wealth management, financial advisory space, helping people build large, multi-billion-dollar firms there. And then also in the healthcare space, we've got a lot of team members with a lot of experience in that. But you can go to hirethewell.com, and I got a little fun giveaway on there. It's a top 10 creative, you've never heard them before, interview questions to find that ideal teammate. So you can download that on there and check us out. So thank you so much, Brandon.
I love it. Thank you for being here. Wherever you're watching or listening, we'll put all those links and resources down in the show notes below, so you can just go check that out. Click over there. That 10 interview questions sounds super cool. I'm going to go download that myself. I can't wait to see what those are. But Steve, thanks for being here again.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Brandon.
Wherever you're watching and listening, make sure you subscribe. Hope to see you back tomorrow on another episode of Harmonious at Lunch. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Harmonious at Lunch podcast. Make sure you subscribe on whatever platform you're on, and we want to invite you to join us in the Small Business Success Facebook group, our private group where guests and listeners come together to grow your business. We want impact-driven entrepreneurs who are ready to go to the next level in this group, so we can all share ideas, collaborate, and grow our businesses together. Go to whatif.com/group, and we want to invite you to join today. See you on the next episode of Harmonious at Lunch.